phone. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. A little busy, a little crazy.
I
Crazy
know,
times.
I
But I'm
know.
well.
15 days before the election. I wish I could hug you. I haven't seen you in forever. Yes, let's put on our glasses and be smart. Hi, Cornell.
I miss hanging out and partying with you. It's been too long.
I know. You and I, that's one thing we do. We laugh. We laugh well. We laugh good together. We're good. We both look old, but we are very young. I miss you so much. So listen, so I'm so glad I got you on. You're awesome. Guys, go run, tell everyone to jump on, because this is an important show. We've had Hillary and Bill Clinton. We've had Kamala Harris. We've had Chuck Schumer. We've had everyone. Cornell Belcher is that guy who breaks it down for us. Yes, the vote. And I called Cornell the other day, and he said something so important. Yes, we're voting. We're voting in record numbers. We're gonna break it all down, and we're gonna help. For any of you that are confused by people, I don't want to say who's out there causing confusion. Today, we're going to straighten a lot of stuff out. We don't need people learning politics 101, acting like a bull in a china shop right now. It's too important. The vote is too important. So I called Cornell the other day. I said, Cornell, do you think, looking at all the polls, do you think Biden's going to win? And he said something so important. You know what Cornell said to me? He said, April, if every vote is counted. If every vote that's cast is counted. And there's the devil in the details. You can early vote, but you got to track your vote. You got to make sure it made it. So Cornell, talk to me about that, because I've been doing it. I've been tracking my vote. So talk to us about that.
Well, what I want to make sure everyone has is, and I'm going to echo what First Lady Michelle Obama has been talking about, is make sure you have a plan. And I think what we're asking people now to do is, as soon as you can vote, go out and vote. It's fine if you want to vote on Election Day. It's fine if you have a plan on voting on Election Day. But we really want to implore you, if you are somewhere where you can get in and vote before Election Day, do that. If you are somewhere where you have to drop your ballot and one of the official boxes, do that. And by the way, April, this is a funny thing.
Official boxes.
Right, because we know Republicans are out there with their tricksters are out there, and they're setting up boxes that are not the actual official drop boxes. So be careful, people.
Yeah.
About that. So you make sure you're dropping your ballot in an official box. But we need to bank as many votes early as possible. And again, that's okay. If you can only make it Election Day, go out there Election Day and do it. But if you can make it before Election Day, have a plan to get you and your friends and your family, drag everyone you know who's registered to vote out, and have them cast their vote early. Luckily for my family, my friends, April, most of them have already voted, so they're not even worried about it. And we're going to try to get as many people to vote early as possible.
So, okay, so once again, Cornell Belcher, Democratic strategist, but most importantly, he is a black pollster. And typically when Cornell says it, it's it. It's it. But we will say that 2016 was an anomaly. Okay, that was an anomaly. But I think we've got it handled kind of, sort of. Do we think this time?
Well, no, you can't take anything for granted. And look, I worked on both of the Obama campaigns, and aside, April would call me and give me plenty of grief, even back then.
I give everybody grief
about what Obama wasn't doing.
He wasn't calling me, giving me enough interviews.
Right, I'm spilling all the tea tonight. But we took, we were a campaign that we took nothing for granted. Even if you think you have a lead, you take nothing for granted. You leave no stone unturned. And what we have to do this time around is make sure that, Hillary 2016 was marred by the Russians and the protest vote. And what you saw.
And James Comey, 11 days out.
Well, that was part of it too, right? So you had you had roughly 5 million or so Obama voters drop out of the process. They weren't enthusiastic, weren't thrilled about
because he was
either of
not
the
on the
candidates.
ballot because we didn't have the
Weren't
enthusiasm.
thrilled about either of the candidates. But also understand, April, that in 2008, we approximately 11% of our. I'm gonna get in the weeds with you because I know a lot of your viewers are smart people, and so they won't mind me getting in the weeds. But look, in 2008, you had approximately 11% of your electorate were people who had not been participating before. And right, Obama talked about building a movement. He expanded the electorate, brought in a lot of new people into the process. And what you have to understand is that that even in 2008, as remarkable as that Obama campaign and that movement was, and you all talked about how America became post-racial and how it was such a great racial breakthrough. Truth of the matter is, April, in 2008, Barack Obama garnered 43% of the white vote, the same percentage of the white vote that John Kerry garnered when he lost. The difference between 2008 and John Kerry was the expansion of that electorate with a lot more young people and a lot more brown people. So approximately 11% of that electorate, they were younger and they were browner, and they were Obama voters. And one of my last memos I wrote to the DNC in 2008 was that we've expanded the electorate. We've brought in a lot of new people, a lot of new energy. We've won places where we typically do not win, but there are a lot of Obama voters who are not necessarily Democratic voters. And that doesn't mean they're Republican, because they're not. They reject Republicans from an issue standpoint across the board, from environmentalism to science to wages to Wall Street. But they don't see a great deal of difference between either of the two parties. And I think we got to talk about sort of doing party building. And you saw a lot of protests, that sort of the protest vote, where you saw a lot of younger voters, particularly younger voters of color. In some of these battleground states, 6-7% of these voters, younger voters of color, protesting their vote, breaking third party. Now, we also know, April, that the Russians, and you reported on this, the Russians were actively trying to do that. The Russians were actively targeting, especially younger African Americans, to push them away to third party. So in state after state, look, what did Donald Trump get in Michigan? Did he get a majority in Michigan? No. Did he get a majority in Wisconsin? No. Did he get a majority in Pennsylvania? No. Did he get a majority in Florida? No. In fact, he got the same percentage of the vote he got in Florida in 2016 would have been a losing percentage in Florida in 2012. The same is true with Wisconsin. The same is true with Pennsylvania. The same is true with Michigan. And especially if you look at Wisconsin, the narrow loss in there was, right in line with the protest vote. She was off of Obama's margins, and almost exact percentage of those young voters who protested their vote. We've got to get all of these voters, coalesced around Biden in order to stop Donald Trump from trying to win again with 47, 48% in some of these battleground states, because he can't get to a majority in them.
Michigan. You brought up Michigan, and let's talk about Michigan. And for all you trolls, I don't worry about you. I just block you when I find out who you are. And we're not worrying about the trolls. The trolls are out because, just like the president, they're running scared. They may leave the country as well.
By the way, I've never paid attention to anything anyone says to me on social media unless I know you. Like, people comment whatever they want on social media. You're having a conversation with yourself.
Okay, so I see somebody right here, and I don't know. I see somebody, but anyway, moving, and I'm getting ready to do my thing like I normally do. So Michigan, let's talk about Michigan. Michigan is an interesting state right now. Michigan is in the news. Why? Because people are listening to this president hate on the governor who is fighting for her people's lives. The president said, go liberate. They open carry and went to the state capitol with guns. Now, Michigan is banning open carry at the polls. Michigan, because the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who is a bad sister from another mister, she wanted to fight to make sure people got swabs for those tests. She wanted to make sure people got tests. She wanted to make sure they were on ventilators. She had death threats, assassination threats from a bunch of wackadoos. And the FBI is involved. This is a big deal. So, and now Michigan, because of all of this, and the auto industry. The auto industry is now split on Donald Trump. Anyone affiliated before the auto industry, oh yeah, the auto industry is now upset. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, Cornell. The auto industry, I've talked to many people in the domestic auto industry, they are upset about the trade deal the president made because it's bad for them. Michigan thrives off of the auto industry, the domestic auto industry. Then on top of that, the things that the president said about the domestic vehicles. So talk to me about how pivotal Michigan is at this moment.
Well, it's hard to get to the White House without some of these key battleground states in around the Great Lakes there, and Michigan is certainly one of them. And Michigan was a state that narrowly dropped out of the Democratic fold in 2016. And again, if you look at how atrocious the turnout was, and especially around parts of Detroit, sort of the Democratic baseland there, he shouldn't be winning a state like Michigan anyway if voters are fully participating. And look, I think Biden has a strong case to make. It's a case that the Obama-Biden ticket made in 2012 is that we saved the auto industry. Republicans were willing to let the auto industry go belly up, and we saved the auto industry. I remember in 2012 now is that, Bin Laden's dead and the American auto industry is alive. Thank you, President Obama and Vice President Biden. Of course, the funny thing is now that Donald Trump is tweeting that maybe Bin Laden's not dead. But that's
crazy. He's crazy. He also called Dr. Fauci an idiot today?
Yes, he did.
So we're going to unpack all of this, guys, in the 45 minutes we have left to talk about all of this. All of this concerns us when it comes to voting right now, right?
Yes.
This is the moment that we're dealing with. We're dealing with COVID. We're dealing with science versus an idiot president.
Can I jump in just on the Fauci part? Sort of science and president. Again, just from a political standpoint, and I'm not trying, and you know me, April, we've actually been on television before. Once upon a time when I was on that other network that I'll be nameless right now, NBC, MSNBC now. Woo.
I know. I used to be there too, but I'm at CNN now. Yeah.
But from a campaign standpoint, this is an odd thing. There are few public figures who are more liked and viewed more positively than Dr. Fauci right now. Like the credibility of Dr. Fauci and all the numbers is off the charts. Except so when you look at the overwhelmingly negative reaction to the job the president has done on COVID, and then you look at who the nation actually trusts on COVID, which is Dr. Fauci, I don't understand from a campaign standpoint, it makes zero sense strategically for this man to come out and attack the guy who has the most credibility on COVID, which he's having the biggest problem with.
But and I hear you. But the ones that don't like Dr. Fauci are the ones he's talking to, who are going to these churches, going to these super spreader events at churches and arenas without a mask. They don't care about science. They're believing in this herd mentality, which is the craziest bag of ish I've heard in a long time. So at the end of the day, what are your polls showing how COVID, the deaths, the sickness, the fear is playing into the numbers? How is COVID playing into the numbers for against the president?
But just to pick up from your point, he's talking to the people who are going maskless and all those other people. April, the problem is there's not enough of them. He's not expanding his base of support. He can, campaign 101 is you've got to lock in your base and then grow. He's not locked. He's locked in his base, but he hasn't grown, and he's locked in his base in a way that prevents him from growing.
Is his base chipping away? Are rational? Are people who are now seeing what he's really about and who cannot ignore it? Are they now kind of chipping away from him? Are they a bit?
The core of Donald Trump's base isn't going anywhere.
The
They know
racists are
exactly.
staying. The racists are
They
staying.
know exactly who it is. I mean, again, and
The
people
Proud
ask
Boys, the racists,
people.
the neo Nazis, all of them.
Well,
Them
if
folks, they staying. We know.
well, listen, the base of racial aversion is the foundation of Donald Trump, and I don't play around with that. I mean, when he came out and launched his campaign in 2016, talking about all rape, the Mexicans being rapists and gang members, and going from there, when he said, basically Barack Obama wasn't wasn't an American. Look, he's playing to a lot of unease and anxiousness about the changes that are happening in America. I mean, Donald Trump and the rise of Donald Trump, and the rise of the Americans who are saying we want to take our country back was a backlash to the fact that you had, for the first time, an African American president. For the first time in our nation's history, again, you could have the majority of white voters saying the overwhelming majority of white voters saying they want the country to go in this direction and the country going in another direction. That's a wake up call for America, that America is changing, and how we deal with these changes that are happening now and are accelerating over the next decade or so. We're going to be awfully close to the tipping point for majority minority country in 10 or 15 years. And this sort of angst and this sort of animosity, this sort of racial aversion that you're seeing right now, if we don't get a hold on it, April, there's not going to be an America. We got to do better.
That's a deep statement.
It's scary.
It is scary, because at this moment we can go upward or we can go backwards. And we can move forward into inclusion, into fixing what has been plaguing this country for years, plus what's happened in the last 3 years, or we can go backwards and never fix anything, and we'll be totally irreparable. So I want to, once again, we're talking to Cornell Belcher, and I want to hit a lot of these topics right now, and I want to get into some states. And I guess, we talked about the issue of Michigan and the auto industry. Someone asked on here about the auto industry. What are you hearing from the auto industry? I'm hearing it's split. I'm hearing leaders out of Michigan telling me that the auto industry is split. You have some who are very much for the president. You have some, once again, who are upset about his words to the domestic auto industry. You've got some who are upset about that trade deal that did not bear fruit for the auto industry, like the president is saying. And manufacturers are still having a hard time. And in the midst of COVID, people aren't buying like they used to. So what are you hearing about the auto industry?
Well, the auto industry, like a lot of the industries around the country, are particularly sort of these trade wars and have not been helpful. And a lot of the policies that this president has implemented, some of the policies that they've tried to roll back from the Obama years, have not necessarily been helpful for these industries. And when you look at a state like Michigan, and most of the sort of the public polling that you see out there, Biden is garnering a majority right now in Michigan. And I say that with the caveat, because one of the other things that was different structurally about what's happening now, structurally different than 2016, is in most of these polls, April, Hillary had a lead, but she didn't ever get to a majority. And that's what I always sort of want to, press for people. Like, I don't care if you have a 10 percentage point lead. I don't care if you have a 8 percentage point lead. I don't care if you have a 1 percentage point lead, as long as you get to a majority. And that's the difference is, in a lot of these battleground states like Michigan right now, it does look like that Joe Biden consistently has a majority. Not only is he locking in and growing the minority vote and African American vote, and their campaign is spending time and resources and treating African American voters like persuadable voters, which is a good thing, right? And I always say, look, Democrats, you got to make a case for why it is that Latinx or white women or college voters and African American voters, you got to make a case for all these voters. You can't treat African American voters any differently. And what I will say this cycle, April, which is different from even 2012 or 2008, previous cycles, is you do have Democrats talking about structural and institutional racism. And, go back to 2000, go back to the early 2000s, you didn't have a Democrat talking about institutional racism. But now institutional and structural racism is actually a part of the conversation.
No. Bill Clinton, second term, the race initiative. He was talking racism. He was trying to remember the race initiative. He was trying. I was there. You might not have been there, but I was there.
Well, you are a little old. You are older than I am, April. But but you're aging well.
Thank you, young man. But I mean, he was talking about bridging the racial divide. He had the foresight, and the only thing that derailed it was the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That's a whole nother story.
Well, but yes, Bill Clinton was a bit of a trailblazer, but not the Democratic Party whole cloth, right? You didn't have senators, you didn't have the vice president, you didn't have April, and this is what I want to sort of press on your viewers, is the House Democrats, led by the Congressional Black Caucus and Chairwoman Bass, they heard the protesters. And they passed a sweeping piece of legislation on criminal justice reform. It's the Floyd Justice and Policing Reform. It is a sweeping, courageous piece of legislation, because you know what it does? It does almost everything those young people on the streets are asking for. It bans no-knock warrants. It goes after qualified immunity. It bans chokeholds. It does the tracing for bad officers. It is legislation that, April, I'm sorry, we could not have gotten that legislation passed in 2008. We could not have got that legislation passed in 2012. The party is talking about it, and they're embracing it differently, and they're doing it because Black people and brown people and young people are demanding it, and that's exactly how politics is supposed to work.
So, yeah, and you're absolutely right. When times change and there's studies after something has happened, people change somewhat with the times. Today is so different than the 80s and the 90s, the mindset, the experiences. And I want to get into something because I want to talk about the Black male vote. And I'm going to go down this road, y'all. I want you to hold on to your seats. I'm getting really upset right now for the miseducation of some of our brothers and sisters, particularly our brothers, like right now, who don't seem to understand politics. This Black Politics 101 course for some of our high named Black men is a wrecking ball in the Black community. So now I'm reading that 50 Cent is now endorsing Trump. I'm seeing it all over. 1019. Seeing all over the place. You got Ice Cube now. Kanye. First of all, guys, look at this. Rappers, okay? Rappers. These are wealthy people. But that does not, you don't just, because you get wealth and you can do this, make it rain, all of a sudden you know everything about politics. No. Their misguided courses in Politics 101 is causing a wrecking ball in Black America. Cornell, explain why the Black male vote is so important, why Donald Trump is going after these people to make it. And before you do this, I'm going to say this real quick. Jamel Hill and I were talking about this. I'm sorry for jumping. But that's right. Yeah, because you just dissed me. You threw some shade at me, so I can't step on you for a minute. So anyway, but I love you. No, Jamel Hill and I were talking about this the other day. Why is it that Black men, the Donald Trump, what is it? He got 14% of the Black male vote last time, correct?
It depends on where you're looking. But I know where you're going. But go ahead.
Okay, so he got double digits last time, and Jamel Hill and I were trying to figure out what the heck is this? Why is he getting this? And I said, maybe it's some Black men feel like, well, if he's acting that way, it's okay for me because I can act that way. He's the president. And she said, you may be hitting on something. She said, one of her friends, male friends, said, women see clearly through all of this stuff. But when a black man sits in front of someone who is high powered and speaks some great language, they then take it and feel like they're a pundit on CNN or MSNBC. They think they know something after hearing one speech. And she said, what the guy said, it makes them feel good. I said, yeah, in the midst of the condition that they put us in, talking the leader put us in, but it makes them feel good when they hear this stuff instead of delving into it. Is that what it is? Because I'm like, Kanye, Ice Cube, and now 50 Cent. I'm like, what? What's going on?
Well, let me say this. Let's say that Trump garnered 13% of the black male vote in 2016. Let's just say that. Let's say he garners 14% of it in 2020.
Is that what it's polling
contextually?
Right now?
Contextually, let's understand what that is.
But is that how it's polling?
But the black vote isn't a monolithic vote, and there's always been black Republicans. There's always been black people voting Republican, and this ideal that the goal, the realistic goal isn't 100%. Black people aren't monoliths, right? And I hear the argument, but I don't want to sort of dive into the argument because I want to level set. Mm-hmm. And for me, level setting is this: if the objective is to get 100% of the black vote, well, that's unrealistic, and that's just not even real. But what you also have is over 80%, almost approaching 90% of African Americans who know better. And I think our job, we have to be focused on that 90% who do understand better and bringing them into the process and empowering them to use their vote and their power to change their communities. I'm not worried about the 10 or 12% of black people who vote Republican because that's nothing new. And I know and I think this is the difference. Just because you and I and a lot of folks understand that he is in fact a racist, and overwhelming majority of African Americans understand he's a racist, so that automatically disqualifies him to us. That does not automatically disqualify him to some people. And I've heard in focus groups that we've had in 2016 where we give some of Donald Trump's negatives. Now, I worked for the Obama campaign. I didn't work on the Hillary campaign. I don't work on the Biden campaign. But for organizations, we were doing focus groups with certain younger African Americans who voted for Obama in 2012 and were not planning on voting this time around, or were thinking about voting third party. And we confront them with the idea that he's racist. And their point was, yeah, he's racist. America's racist. I think most Republicans are racist. So that, to me, then wasn't unique or necessarily even a disqualifier, right? So my point is, if we set up the game that we got to get 100% of the black vote, that's a failure. We're never going to do that because Republicans have always gotten a certain percentage of the African American vote. I mean, George Bush made significant inroads with Latino voters as well as some inroads with African American voters, particularly in states like Ohio. I'd much rather be focused on educating and empowering the almost 90% of African Americans who are in fact voting against this guy than talking about the 10% who are not. I think we spend too much time focused on the 10% who are not.
There is an attempt in the last 15 days to make some ruckus. Donald Trump is clearly trying to disenfranchise the black vote from Joe Biden. I'm just going to say this. I am a journalist, but in this election, I'm going to be honest with you. And all of us have been personally affected. In my opinion, from the unique perch that I have been in for 23 years, Donald Trump is not an option for black folks in this election. End of story. Moving on, because we still are a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. And we are dying under this president, either through the racial reckoning or through COVID and more. We still have the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. All those smoke and mirrors, the black unemployment rate is better than ever. He never did anything for it to get better. If he did, guess what? We'd be on par with white America, and the wealth gap would probably be like this. 285 years before COVID, they said for black wealth and white wealth to come together. In COVID, I bet you it's going to be 1,000 years. He ain't talking about that. Ask him that. As he's pulling Kanye and this one and that one and 50. And I want to get to this. Kanye is running for president. Why? He's a nutball right now without his meds. Okay, we in COVID. He's gonna be worried about his meds. He's gonna be worried about your meds in COVID. Okay. 50 Cent, whatever. Okay, Curtis Jackson, whatever his name is, whatever. Ice Cube said he's not supporting Donald Trump, but why is he retweeting a video that compares Joe Biden to Hitler? Now, I have given Ice Cube all the benefit of the doubt, and I get that he wants everybody to hear, but Ice Cube, 50, all of them need to get with organizations to put their plans through instead of being a wrecking ball in the black community 15 days before the election. And there's so many people who don't. Politics is very cerebral for a lot of people. It's too cerebral, and we got to break it down. Sometimes I have to sit there and say, okay, now what's this and what's this? Those thus thou art, wherefore, there, as, all that stuff. And we have to break it down for common lingo. And it's hard when you're already trying to understand, and you got other people coming out here throwing a sideball. The issue is to distract those who are confused already. You got to stand on what you know. And I'm not saying vote for Joe Biden. I'm saying whoever gets in there, kick there. But you are part of we the people. You have to hold people accountable, right?
Well, yes. But you're making a point that I want to underline because you're laying out the facts of the case, and I don't get passionate one way or the other about what other black people or other people of color that who want to support Trump is. I believe in a free market, a free marketplace of ideas, and I think most people will lay out
place of ideas. But we have to make people understand what the real deal is.
But you can't make people, April. You can't.
Well, I mean, you have to put it out there. You have to put it out there. I get you.
Yes, but that's my point, and that's what and that's why I'm agreeing with you. You put the case out there, and in a free market of ideals, this is Donald Trump's case, and here is the other side of the case, and the case that you've been making, and people got to decide, and the majority of people. And the majority of people, April, Ryan, are deciding against Donald Trump right now. But I can't focus and pay attention and get caught in that rabbit hole of chasing one celebrity after another celebrity because they want to endorse Donald Trump.
See, so I'm a White House correspondent. Anything and everything presidential is what I cover. They are now in my purview. Even Diddy. Okay, people say you forgot Diddy. No, I didn't forget Diddy. Diddy is now saying that he is not asking people to withhold their vote. Thank you, Diddy. You cannot withhold. The stakes are way too high to withhold your vote. If you have issues, hold them accountable. Don't withhold your vote. But be clear on the issues. When you go, okay, in Maryland, you can go on the state government website or the Board of Election Supervisors, and you can see the ballots in each jurisdiction, right, Cornell?
Yes.
You see your ballot before you cast your vote. You can see who's on it. You can read up on the propositions. You can read up on any question and each person to go in with an informed decision. But now the issue is everybody wants people to vote. Cornell, tell us the numbers right now of how many people voted.
Well, I think last checked, I mean, you got over 20 million people have already voted.
And what was last year was 1.5 million at this same time in 4 years ago?
Well, if you're going back to 2016, which is a apples to apples presidential election site years, we're blowing through all those numbers. And so the early voting is setting a record pace. And part of it is, April, is that people like you and people like the First Lady Michelle Obama is putting out the message. Have a plan. I don't care what your plan is, but have a plan about voting and get out there and try to vote. If possible, get out there and vote early. Cast your vote, lock your vote in before election day. And we're seeing that all over the country. The most interesting thing about the numbers from the early vote, there's a couple of things that are most interesting, and that is, it's
Wait,
not
someone
just
said we didn't have early voting. And yes, we did. We had early vote. We've had early voting. Yes, we've had early voting forever and a day. Don't say that, guys. Go ahead.
well,
You just didn't realize it was there for you.
yes. But the interesting part of the data is that we are seeing a large swath of voters who are voting early, who in fact didn't participate in 2016, and that's the good news. And if you look at the model party identification of those voters who are voting early, who didn't vote in 2016, it's anywhere between 14 and 15, plus 14 to 15 points for Dems. So I think we're seeing a lot of both the Obama voters who sat out in 2016 coming back into the process, because to your point, they see and understand the case to be made, and they're making a rational decision to re-enter the process. And we're also seeing more younger people entering the process than we did in 2016.
So people are saying in certain states they didn't have early voting before, but you have absentee voting, okay? You can send the things in if you were out of state or you aren't. So guys, let's not get into the semantics. There was some form of mail-in voting for every state, correct, Cornell?
I don't know the answer to that. I know the laws differ from state to state, because part of the issue is this, April, there is no national standard.
Right. But there are absentee, but you can vote absentee, and that goes in ahead of time, correct?
Well, yes, but the laws do vary state to state. And one of the things that again, getting back to how your vote can change things, again, House Democrats have passed a voting right legislation that gets at some of the shenanigans that we're seeing right now, gets at some of the lines and how different the process is in communities of color than other communities. Mm-hmm. It's sitting, dying in the Senate. This is how important your vote is, people. Yeah. Because you know what? You want to secure your right to vote? We've got to flip the Senate. You want criminal justice reform? All those bills are going to Mitch McConnell's desk, and they're dying, and he's laughing while he runs through more judges who are going to try to block everything, every reform you have. But this is the power of your vote, April, and it's important because all these issues that you want, you have the power to make them happen with your vote.
That's right. So we are voting early, one, because our president has made the Postmaster General dismantle the sorting machines, take the mailboxes off the streets. And this is not myth, conjecture, or a lie. This is truth. So to make sure your ballots counting, people are mailing it in early or actually going to the Board of Election Supervisors and finding the actual official ballot box. Now, this is something we need to talk about. And this is important, everyone, for all of you who have voted early, for all of your friends, your aunties, your uncles, your Grammys, granddaddies, your pastors, your first lady, everybody, all of them who voted early. I need you to listen clearly. I asked Cornell, I said, Cornell, I called him over the weekend. I said, Cornell, I said, look, I said, being the pollster, the great pollster that he is, I said, Cornell, is Biden going to win this? He said, if every vote is counted. I said, what do you mean if every vote is counted? Explain it. Explain it, please. This is important, guys. Listen. No, this is important.
Well, part of voter suppression is trying to undermine the system and trying to make you feel as though the system isn't valid and is not credible. And part of voter suppression is, in fact, taking away voting places in communities of color and where younger people participate. This is in the court cases, April, that you'll see after the election, where it is. Look, there's no doubt. I mean, I don't. How do you watch what's happened over the last 3 years and think that Donald Trump is just going to accept the will of the vote and go quietly?
The ballot, if he doesn't accept it, so once he's made to, if Biden wins and he has to accept it, he's going to leave the country.
But as
So that's
but as a
scary.
process before we get there, what I want to tell your viewers is this: stay patient, stay vigilant, right? And we may not know we may not have all the votes counted and be able to declare states on election night. It may take a day. It may take 2 days, right? It may take 3 days.
We might even get. Someone said Florida does this so well with mail-in ballots that they may have it. They may have it on election night or even on the 4th, and they said whichever way Florida goes is kind of an indication of where.
Yes, but it's not. But you can't. But you can't declare the president.
Right.
If Florida is going, but take Pennsylvania. We probably won't know what Pennsylvania. We probably won't know who won Pennsylvania because they're unlike Florida. They don't have this process of counting the ballots before election days. And again, April, this is a problem. We need a national standard, and I think some of the reform legislation that needs to happen in the next Congress is that we do need a national standard. That all these votes need to be counted, and they should start counting these votes as they come in, and they should have the resources to in fact count the votes, and they should have the resources to have polling places all across our communities.
Okay, someone says Florida votes red anyway. 48.2% for Biden and 46.8% for Donald Trump. Florida votes red normally, but listen to that. 48.2% for Biden, 46.8% for Florida. Right now, that's real clear politics.
I work for a guy who won Florida twice for president, so sure.
But Biden's winning, and Biden is doing.
But Florida is a battleground state. Florida has, I can talk all night about Florida, but Florida has this interesting dynamic that's unlike any place else in the country, and that is this. Florida is at one time. Florida is these two things merging. If we talk about the changes, the demographic changes that are happening in this country, and we talk about the diversification that's happening in this country, nowhere is that truer than what we see in the South, and nowhere is that truer than specifically Florida, where you do have a browning and a diversification that's happening in Florida that is leading the country in many ways. But at the same time, April, and this is what was really interesting about the Gilliam race, you also have, and God bless their hearts, but you have older Americans going to Florida in droves to retire. Older Americans are going to the Sun Belt to retire, but they're going in droves to Florida to retire. So in that 2018 midterm, the senior vote made up a significant larger swath of the vote in Florida and that midterm than it had in the previous midterm. And that was one of the things that was hard to overcome in the last days for Democrats in Florida, because the senior vote there was so strong. So you have these two competing dynamics. You have a younger, more diverse electorate competing strongly with an older, less diverse, more conservative electorate battling out in Florida in the sort of ground zero for the changing America versus the older America in Florida.
So I want to get on to tracking, and I'm going to answer some of these questions because someone asked, and we're going to come back to it. Someone asked, what happens if he doesn't? Well, I'm going to answer it now. Someone asked, what if he doesn't accept it? So if you watch my COVID conversations in IG Live, I had the former U.S. Attorney General by the name of Eric Holder on, and I asked that question. And I said, but he said he's not leaving. I said, on January 20th, there's going to be a split screen. Joe Biden taking the oath of office over here, and another camera showing Donald John Trump white knuckling or orange knuckling the Resolute desk, and troops having to pull him out. He said, no, it's not going to be any of that. Eric Holder says it's not going to be any of that. I said, but he says he's not going. He said, listen, on January 20th, when all the votes are counted, and if Joe Biden is elected as president of the United States, what's going to happen? All the codes, from the nuclear codes, every code goes to Joe Biden. He will be president. And if Donald Trump is there, troops will just take him out. He won't be president anymore. I said, okay, when you say it like that, it's not going to be the drama that we thought. The only drama is just the fact that we'll be pulling Donald Trump out. He's not going to be president because everything moves. They don't keep the same code. They move the codes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden will be president.
That's good information, April. One of my Republican friends who will remain nameless pointed out to me yesterday that, quite frankly, he thinks if Donald Trump doesn't win, Donald Trump's not going to stay in Washington to January.
What I said? So I talked again. I texted Eric Holder again today. I said, "Well, he says he's going to leave the country." Well, he said, "Just indict him." I said, "But you got to hurry up and do it." And he said, "Indict him and take their passports." Let me tell you something. I don't. Guys, stay tuned. This is a story that's still unfolding. The desperation is there. But let's get on to this. The tracking of the vote. That's the piece that we were talking about. You said as long as every vote's counted. So everybody, we have to do work. There's a heavy lifting on this as well. It's not just the simple, yes, you wrote your ballot. Everyone needs to call their Board of Election Supervisors in their community, or even if it's online, and find out if your vote got there, your ballot got there. 2, if it's accepted. And you have, and my vote in my state, they said today, both my daughter vote, the 2 ballots from this home got there. Now, it hasn't been counted yet, and we don't even know if they're accepted yet, but it's there. But you have to track it. There's a track, right, Cornell? That's what you're saying. Everyone needs to make sure, because they're stealing the ballots, they're throwing them in the trash, they're burning them, they're putting them in fake boxes. Correct.
Well, and look, and again, there's no national standard here, so you have to know the rules and laws of your state, your jurisdiction for voting. But again, what I will say, and what I think you're seeing a chorus of folks saying now is, it's fine if you want to vote November, on election day, go put your mask on, go.
No, a hazmat suit. Put your hazmat suit on.
Go into the polls. You don't need a hazmat suit, just a bag.
Oh, yes, you do.
Go to the polls. April, they might not have a hazmat suit. Just go to the polls.
On Amazon, they sell them cheap. Go ahead, move it on. Just
put your mask on, go and vote on election day. However, if you have an opportunity to go before election day, to April's point, go before, put your vote in, lock it in, and then if you want to track it, depending on your locality, and look at the rules for doing that. But we want to try to get as many people to the polls before election day as possible.
So once again, every state has a Board of Election Supervisors. In each community, they have one as well. Each county, supposedly. What you need to do is reach out and make sure you can find out, or just find out if they have it. And because there are barcodes on there. Just call and track your ballot to make sure you are counted, make sure your vote matters. And Cornell, I know you know this, Kwesi Mfume, Congressman Kwesi Mfume, who's running for his seat again. This is his second time as congressman. He's filling the seat left vacant by the death of Congressman Elijah Cummings, and he was formerly the head of the NAACP. I'm going to tell you how votes matter. Kwesi Mfume won his city council seat. We wouldn't know his name unless he won the city council seat. Guess how many votes he won by? Yes.
How many?
The
3.
Father, the Son, and the Holy
Ghost. No, April, that's important because your vote does have power. And here's what I want to tell people is, this is far too important. And especially to our young people and our younger Black males who you were talking about earlier, April. Look, your communities are under attack. You know it. I know it. The country's heading in the wrong direction. Our communities cannot afford another 4 more years of this race-baiting, division-fanning president, because it's literally killing us. You got to step up and take responsibilities for your community. You got to step up and exercise your power to protect your communities and your family. That's what this election is about. I don't want to hear any excuses for why you didn't vote, because if you're not voting, then you're not stepping up like a man and doing what you're supposed to do for your communities and your family, right? So step up for your community and take responsibility for your community, and try to protect your community, because that's what this election is about.
So guys, some places you can track online, but again, your Board of Election Supervisors, you can call for any information about your polls. You should be able to find out where, if you don't know where your polling place is. First, make sure that you are registered to vote. Don't just go to the polls.
Yes.
Make sure
Check your registration dates, and
yeah.
if you're not, get it done because it's closing soon.
Yeah. Make sure, find out your registration dates if you're not registered. 2, find out where your polls are. 3, just get all the information you can about voting. It's important to be well armed. You can never overstudy because it's about your life. And I'm so thankful to have Cornell for the remaining minutes we have. He's a brilliant mind. He calls his company Brilliant Corners. Stop. He is a brilliant mind, and I love talking to him. He makes me laugh. He throws shade, but I throw it back. But
you're the queen of shade.
I'm not the queen of shade. I'm a good girl. So anyway, he gives concise information, and I want you to help. So I'm looking at Real Clear Politics. That's where I look. Unless you have a website that I should be looking at to see the listing, the current listing of numbers. Where do you have one?
Well, no, I mean, all those places are good. I would say, try multiple places. I mean, one of the, I don't know, I follow Tom Bonnier on Twitter. I do most stuff on Twitter, not IG, and that's a good site to go. Follow Tom Bonnier because he gives a daily update of what's happening with early vote and how early vote is trending. So, there's several sites out there that you can go to and get information. Be informed. There's nothing more dangerous than an informed Black person.
Yeah. So it's CEO at Target Smart?
Yes.
Okay. So I just followed him. So that's okay. So I'm follow him, but I'll look at him, and because I work with the people at Real Clear Politics. But
they're good. They're good.
They are very good. I love how they keep the numbers going consistently. So let's go to the presidential poll. Right now it says Biden up by 8.9%. With 51.3% of the vote and Trump 42.4% of the vote.
And that's their polling average, right?
That's the polling average, election 2020, yes. Top battlegrounds, even Biden got that. Top battlegrounds, 49% over Trump, 45%. He's up by 4 percentage points. Latest betting odds, Biden, 60.4%, if you're going to bet, hey. And then Trump, 39.9%. Hey, Trump owns some casinos. Why not bet on it? Anyway, so, but they went bankrupt. That's right. Oh, so anyway.
But that point about the battlegrounds is the one I'm going to come back to what I talked about earlier, and why is you can't take anything for granted. It's important for you all to vote. He's at 49% in the average battleground states. That means Donald Trump can win it because he's not at a majority. And it's the same thing that we saw in 2016 is Hillary was, these battleground states were closer, and Donald Trump was able to squeak out a plurality.
So even with these 20-some million early votes.
Well, we don't know, but here's the other part about this, and this is getting in the weeds. The polling is as good as your assumption about the electorate. When polling is wrong, it's not a methodological problem. It's a problem with art. There's an art and a science of polling. The science part, quite frankly, April Ryan, is the easy part of polling, because hell, you can get that from most of your college stat classes. But the art is the difficulty. And to my point, April, is you'll remember this. In 2012, all your friends at the Mitt Romney campaign thought for sure they were going to win.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
because they had a different idea of what the electorate was going to be. They thought the electorate in 2012 was going to be more like it looked in 2000 and Kerry was 2004.
Mm-hmm.
2000. They thought it was going to be more like
Kerry was George Bush. Yes.
They thought it was going to be more like the Kerry Bush electorate than it was 2008. We, on the other hand, knew that and they would say, Cornell, the energy for Barack Obama isn't where it was in 2008. And what they didn't understand is, hell, the energy is never going to be what it was in 2008 because that was a special time and moment. But the determination of those voters to once again back Barack Obama was still there. And we knew that, quite frankly, the electorate was no way the electorate was going to look like it looked in Kerry Bush. It was going to, in fact, look a lot more like it was going to look in 2008 with that same the same makeup, and which, by the way, again allowed Barack Obama to win his second majority while only garnering, I think we garnered only 39% of the white votes. So he actually did worse among white voters in 2012 than he did in 2008. But he still garnered majority because we were still expanding the electorate, still bringing in younger people and people of color in real strong ways.
So once again, you're saying that basically it's the Electoral College, and it boils down to...
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is when you have this many people who have not been traditionally a part of the election, they're not part of the model. They're not part, there's a likely voter thing. And what you're seeing is there are a lot of people who would never be considered likely voters turning out.
But a lot of those people, again, like in before, they didn't have house phones. The house phone thing is a big issue too about being polled. Someone just here said, I've never seen a poll before. And they don't have, why you put your glasses back on? They don't have house phones. Remember, a lot of people were not polled. Stop it, Cornell.
But that's not true, April. No, most people are not polled. No, most people are in fact not polled. Good example. When you go to your doctor and your doctor takes your blood, does your doctor need to take all your blood in order to know what's wrong with you, or does they just take a sample of your blood and know what's wrong with you?
You trying to tell me that not having back in 2016, that wasn't a problem, the landline issue?
No, that wasn't a damn problem. The people you get calls on cell phone all the time. Yes, but one of the reasons why polling is so difficult.
Polling wasn't going on cell phones back.
Yes, it was. That's how you telling me I'm a pollster. I'm telling me. See, I'm done with you. I'll put my glasses back on. I'm done with you.
But at one point that was said to be an issue, that new technologies, the polls, the instruments had to formulate to move over to new technologies that we're dealing with. That's what I was told by pollsters, my friend.
Well, you should, April, my ability to reach a more diverse and more younger group. Can I finish?
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Vice President, can I finish?
No.
I'm speaking. My ability to reach people who are younger, people who are minorities, people who are more downscale, today is better than it has ever been because of this tool that I'm now talking to you on, because of the smartphone. In 2004, that 22-year-old Latinx student walking around the University of Arizona's campus, we had very few ways of getting to him or her and understanding what their views and what their issues was and to speak to them. Today, because of this technology, I can get your ass anywhere. It's 7 o'clock. I gotta go. I'm done messing with you.
I'm gonna say this to you. Some people on here say they have been polled. Some people say they haven't. I was polled many years ago, and you know what? And I believe you, because of your unique nature of who you are, you understand to dig down in the holes. There are people who are different who don't want to dig down in the holes and count us. Do you understand that?
Oh yes. Well. Racism and data is a whole nother hour-long conversation.
So that's why you are who you are, and other people were behind the curve on the cell phone. So you can get me, damn it, like you say. You can find me. Someone just said, poll me. Sister, we need to, this sister's like, I've never been poll me. And she's like,
I think there's a double entendre there. I think that's double meaning.
Okay. You know what? I'm not with that right now, Cornell. Look, we keep this above board. This is COVID Conversations with April Ryan. I'm too old for your young shitty. But anyway, so They said, Cornell, please come back. Yeah.
April don't mess with me. Don't act like April messes with me. April, you don't mess with me. Also come back. April don't mess with me. I love you to death, April.
What do you mean I don't mess with Cornell?
I love you to death. And whenever you call and need an interview, and he's like, "Oh, no one else is taking my call. I guess I'll call Cornell." And I try to come through for you. That's fine.
You know who I am? I'm the April Ryan.
Exactly.
Answer my calls.
Exactly.
You
got too big for me. I'm just a little country boy. I get it. That's fine.
The fly country boy who wears Gucci slippers and sandals and stuff. We hang out. He's got his little Gucci sandals. Hey, Cornell.